Hi, y'all, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Well, we are a couple of weeks into the Karen Read trial. By this point in Karen Read's first trial, the Commonwealth was already looking ragged. Things are definitely looking better this time around for the Commonwealth in the second trial, in the retrial of Karen Read. But is it even close to enough? Today, the Commonwealth put on a series of witnesses, including two who had real problems last time. Since it's a retrial, the Commonwealth and the witnesses have had a chance to figure out what did not work last time. Like, for example, sticking their heads in the sand when it came to really embarrassing impeachment evidence. And in this trial, the Commonwealth is getting out in front of some of that really bad evidence. But that cannot make the problem go away entirely, of course. So today, the Commonwealth put up paramedic Katie Mclofflin. She had critical evidence about an alleged confession by Karen Read, where she said, I hit him, and said it a total of 4 times. The Commonwealth says that is a straight up admission that Karen Read killed her boyfriend when she backed into him with her car, and that she knew it. Before she claimed he was missing, she corralled 2 friends to help her search for him in a blizzard on a January morning in Boston in 2022. Now, the last time this paramedic testified, her testimony was severely blunted because the defense was able to impeach her as to a friendship with Caitlin Albert. Caitlin Albert lived right there at 34 Fairview, which is the home where John O'Keefe's body was found in the front lawn. Karen Read's team says what happened was John O'Keefe went into the party after Karen Read dropped him off, went in, people in there killed him, and they put him out in the snow and then proceeded to frame Karen Read for his murder. So tonight you're going to watch clips from her testimony and see how she handled that issue this time, her relationship with Caitlin Albert. There was also Lieutenant Gallagher, who famously used solo cups and a leaf blower to collect evidence. And he tried to justify his evidence. The optics weren't great last time. You'll see how he did it this time around. So the Commonwealth clearly on stronger footing than last time, but it's a long, long way from over. The defense has a lot more to come, and big witnesses like Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, maybe even Trooper Proctor, are still ahead. So will Karen Read be able to pull this out? Let's break down what happened today on day 9 of Karen Read's retrial. We're going to start with the blood alcohol testimony and then get into some clips from some of today's witnesses. By the way, would you mind hitting the like button? That'll really help the video get out. I would appreciate that very much. If you are not subscribed, please join us. We would love to have you. Shout out to the first 5 in tonight's chat: Angel LaFawn, Oklahoma Gigi, S. Cipher, Michael Lalonde, and Shiro Sheena. So just a quick note, we'll talk about this more at the end. On Wednesday, we will be doing a members only. And do not forget that you have this brand new emoji, the one on the right at Zibbyte, which Marlon created for us. And if you are a member, you get to use this emoji in the chat. You can see kind of the bigger blowout, what it's all about. Chloe the dog, the tail light, the car, and then you've got the emoji you can put in the chat tonight. Okay, so, and also our upcoming schedule for the next couple of weeks will be coming up at the end. So let's break into what we're going to talk about first. I want to go over very quickly the tail end of the forensic scientist Hannah Knowles. She started on Friday. Just to kind of break it down and make it super easy, because there's 0.08, 93% of deciliters, blah, blah, blah. Here's the bottom line. If you were to picture this as whole numbers, and 8 would be what would be considered legally intoxicated in Massachusetts and most, if not all, states. Now, the next morning, after she had been drinking the night before, after she had dropped John O'Keefe off at 12:45, her measurement was a 9 above the legal limit, which means she was still legally drunk that next morning. Now, they calculated backwards, and that would have meant that instead of 8, which would have been bad, she would have been between 14, and 28 the night before when she dropped John O'Keefe off. Now, those are, I'm putting them in whole numbers just to make it easier to kind of visualize. The cross-examination was related to the fact that the witness had to just rely on numbers given to her Good Samaritan Hospital and had to assume those were correct. We heard some pretty harsh cross-examination of Good Samaritan earlier in the trial. Also, there are some things that might affect whether or not that was valid or not. And this is, in fact, a blood serum instead of a straight whole blood kind of calculation. And she said she doesn't really know, the witness didn't really know when Karen Reed last had something to drink. And the Yannetti was doing the cross-examination, and he implied, well, maybe Karen Reed went home, and while she was waiting for John O'Keefe to get home, she started drinking some more. So maybe she didn't stop drinking at the time that the witness assumed she had. On redirect, we got a couple of key points. One, that less than 5% of alcohol is eliminated through urination. So whether or not somebody urinated more frequently would not make that big of a difference. And that huge range between 14 and 28, that's already calculated to take into account all the variations. So the Commonwealth is sticking strong on the idea that she was heavily intoxicated. And of course, they are helped by those clips they put in of the interviews she did with various media sources where she talked about what she'd had to drink the night before. All right, so and let's get into the clips. And I want to talk about one of the biggest mysteries of this case is the fact that nobody saw John O'Keefe, even at times when they should have seen John O'Keefe. Now, Karen Reed says she dropped him off roughly 12:30-ish. He walked into the party. Everyone in the party says they didn't see him. He wasn't there. Now, and at the same time, we have some witnesses where we heard from today who said they drove by Karen's car while it was sitting outside the house, 34 Fairview, and the passenger seat was empty. So where was John O'Keefe? Because they were there the whole time Karen was there. She wouldn't have had a chance to hit him. So none of it really made any sense. But let's go ahead and take a listen to what Ryan Nagel had to say. Now, quick explanation of Ryan Nagel. Not a relative. He had known them for a long time. His sister inside the house there at 34 Fairview, she had come over to help Brian Albert Jr. celebrate his birthday. So they were inside. Just as he had finished going out to a club, to McCarthy's with his buddy, Ricky, who was driving a truck, he was in there. He got a text message from his sister, Julie, saying, hey, could you come pick us up? Because we don't really, I need a way to get home. Would you mind picking me up on your way home? So they go out of their way. And we heard him in the first trial say he was kind of annoyed about this, but they went out of their way to go to 34 Fairview to pick up Julie. And then, of course, she wanted to stay and get a ride home with somebody else after they got all the way over there. So on the way, as they were turning off one road onto Fairview, they were about to turn left. Another vehicle, a black SUV, was ready to turn right. Now, of course, it will turn out that's Karen Reed's vehicle. She says she's dropping John O'Keefe off. They've been invited to the after party. Neither one of them ever actually goes inside.
When Ricky pulled up to Fairview, where did he stop?
Right in front of the driveway of the Albert's house.
You were in the front passenger side of the truck?
Correct, sir.
If you looked directly outside that window, what would you have seen?
The driveway and the house.
The other vehicle, did it stop at the driveway?
No, it was probably like a car length in front of us.
So it was in front of you?
Correct, sir.
Now, that's not exactly the location where it would make sense for the vehicle to be, because John O'Keefe walks over 80 feet, according to his health data. And that's too close to the house for the Commonwealth story to exactly make sense. But Jennifer McCabe puts the car as moving more than once and ultimately ending up past the flagpole. And of course, John O'Keefe's body was found just sort of about where probably he's describing the vehicle as being. A little bit to the right of the flagpole if you're looking at the house.
Drove by that SUV. What was your primary focus?
My sister, sir. Like watching her get in.
You were being
Watching her
attentive to
go
her getting
back
in?
into the
Correct,
house.
sir.
As you watched her get in, did you glance or see anything else in your vision as you were watching your sister go into the
I
house?
saw that there was a woman in the driver's seat of the black SUV in front of me.
So here's what's happening. Julie has come out and said, y'all want to come in? Maybe then you could give me a ride home. And they said, no, we want to go home. And so, you know, if you can get another ride, great. But we just want to go on home. We don't want to come inside. And so Julie, the sister, goes back into the house. They're pulling away. And as they do, they pass that black SUV, Karen Reed's vehicle. And here's what he saw inside the vehicle. He sees a woman sitting there.
Sitting there with her hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2.
Did you get a good enough look that you would remember who that person was, or was it too brief to
It
identify
was
the person?
too brief, sir.
You saw the person in the SUV with their hands on the wheel. How did you see them inside the car?
Their dome light was on.
Do you know how a dome light comes on in a vehicle?
Yes, sir. Either you press it yourself or if there's a door open.
Did you see anybody else in the car?
No, sir.
Were you looking for anybody?
No, sir.
Could there have been somebody else in the vehicle at that time?
It could have been, yes.
Could there have been someone standing outside the door?
Yes, it could have been.
Did you?
So, but no one got out of the vehicle and walked into the house, at least as far as these people saw, and they were directly behind the car. And so they never saw anybody get out of the vehicle, and they never saw walk up toward the house. So where's John O'Keefe, right?
Ever see any person get out of that SUV that was in front of you?
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see anybody, any man, ever cross the front yard towards that home?
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see any man ever enter or stand in that front door?
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see anybody walk across the front yard to the side door?
I'll allow it.
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see anybody enter that side door other than your sister?
No, I did not, sir.
As you were parked at the driveway the entire time, that generally 5-minute time, did you ever see anybody get out of the SUV and walk down the street towards the driveway?
I'll allow it.
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see anybody walk past your truck and up the driveway?
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see any person other than your sister outside of those vehicles the entire time that you were at Fairview?
I'll allow it.
No, I did not, sir.
So obviously this is a disconnect, right? This doesn't make a lot of sense because they should have seen John O'Keefe getting out of the car and either being hit by her vehicle or going inside, and they don't see that. The Commonwealth's clear implication is maybe John O'Keefe had just gotten out. That's why the light went on in the vehicle. He had just opened the door and was getting out. They didn't see him because they were looking inside the car and he was standing right next to it. So that's the implication the Commonwealth is making. Now, we know, of course, Karen Reed's team is convinced John O'Keefe actually not only got out, but went into the house, which is where he was murdered. So I want to say thank you to Jackie P. for gifting 5 lawyerly memberships. Thank you so much. And Mari Brown is a new member. Welcome, Mari, just in time since we have our next members live Wednesday after our regularly scheduled program. Michael, we are so sorry to hear about your mom, and we wish her really well with her kidney stone surgery. And Marlon is telling us that in the Netherlands, they honored all fallen soldiers yesterday, and they have Liberation Day from World War II. So that's really cool. It's always so interesting because so many of you are from other countries to get to learn a little bit about your culture. So I really enjoy that. Thank you, Marlon, for letting us know about that. Okay, so let's keep going on the cross of Ryan Nagel. Now, this is where the defense begins to ask some questions of Ryan Nagel and try to make some points. And they clearly managed. So let's hear what he had to say. The first one, they want to point out and get him to agree that that black SUV driven by Karen Reed was driving very safely. Why would that matter? Because, of course, of that alcohol evidence that the state is suggesting otherwise. If she was intoxicated and driving dangerously, that's one thing, but that isn't what Ryan Nagel saw. So here we go.
Observations of the black SUV at that time were that whoever was driving it, that person appeared to be driving safely as well, correct?
Yeah, I would assume so, yes. Yes, sir.
The black SUV appeared to be going at a safe speed.
Yes.
It appeared to be properly staying within its lane.
Yes, I would say, yeah.
And when it was time for Ricky to take a left onto Fairview, he actually put on his left blinker, or not left blinker, but both his blinker, flashed his lights to signal that it was okay for the black SUV to cut in front of it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he actually did have his left blinker on at that time, correct? Prior
Yes,
to
sir.
doing that? And the black SUV had its right directional on, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when both cars have their directionals on, indicating they're going down the same street, the black SUV did not suddenly cut in front of Ricky's vehicle until the flashing of the lights, correct?
Correct, sir.
Both cars appeared to be operating safely, correct?
Correct, sir.
Once the lights were flashed, there was nothing about the operation of that black SUV that told you that the driver appeared to be confused about what the flashing meant, correct?
Correct, sir.
The black SUV didn't hesitate at that time. It just proceeded onto Fairview in front of you, correct?
Correct, sir.
And it did so in a safe manner.
Correct, sir.
So about this time, snow, because this was a blizzard night in Boston, or near Boston, Massachusetts, and snow was coming down by now, but it was not yet sticking. It wasn't covering the grass yet. It was just beginning. And so that becomes part of one of the important factors, because everything becomes harder to see as time goes on. But for right now, that's not yet an issue. So here's what Ryan Nagel says.
Correct, sir.
You didn't see her lips moving as if she were talking, correct?
I wasn't looking for that. Yes.
You didn't see anybody else in the SUV.
No, I did not, sir.
You certainly didn't see a 6'1" man in the SUV in the passenger seat, correct?
Correct, sir.
In fact, you saw that the passenger seat was empty.
Correct.
Look how confused, he looks confused there to me. Does he look confused to you? I'm curious what you think about that. I left it out because that expression that he does. Let's go back and look at that.
In the SUV in the passenger seat, correct?
Correct, sir.
In fact, you saw that the passenger seat was empty.
Correct.
So I will tell you, it's a little stronger than what he testified to the last time around. I looked up his last testimony, and here is what I found that he said. He said, I only saw one person at the time. I wasn't really looking. It just happened to be like at a glance as we drove by. Okay. And then the second thing he said related to this was, and you saw one person, that's all? I saw at the time, yes, female with long hair. Is that correct? And I should probably it was female with long hair. Is that correct? And you did not see anybody else inside that SUV. And he says, no, to my acknowledgement, as a matter of fact, you were asked that in prior testimony, and you indicated in response to that basic question, no, she was alone, correct? And later he says she was alone as far as you could see, correct. So it seemed a little stronger this time, just he could see the seat and there was no one in it. That seems to me to be, I mean, it's hard to know which way that cuts. Is that pro-prosecution? Is that pro-Commonwealth? Or is that pro-defense? It suggests he got out of the car, but both sides think he got out of the car. One side thinks he got out of the car. This is the Commonwealth. And then she hit him with her car. The other side thinks he got out of the car and went into the house. Either way, he got out of the car. I guess the only difference is if he got out of the car at that moment and they haven't seen her hit him yet, and they're right there, then maybe she drove away and didn't hit him. But there's still that gap where she's still parked outside. They've moved on. and the light is on. And I think the Commonwealth is implying that maybe he was standing right there. He hadn't moved anywhere, but everything had to have happened in that next minute or two. It can't have been much longer than that. All right, let's listen to a little bit more.
And you were closest to the driver's side of the black SUV, correct?
Correct, sir.
You noticed that the interior dome light was on, correct?
That is correct,
This
sir.
was on
That
cross.
lit up the whole front compartment of the SUV, did it not?
Yes.
It lit up the driver's seat and the passenger's seat, correct?
All I could see was the driver at the time, sir.
Understood. But the light wasn't just shining just on the driver. It wasn't pointed at the driver.
I would say they were both lights that go down at both seats, correct? They were on.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So you could see both seats in the front driver's
I
compartment.
couldn't
correct?
see past the woman.
Well, you only saw one.
I only
person.
saw a woman. Sorry to interrupt you. Yes.
No problem. It allowed you to see into that front compartment.
Yes.
All right. And you saw one person inside the car at that time.
Correct, sir.
It was a woman with long hair in the driver's seat, correct?
Correct, sir.
And she looked like she was alone.
Yes.
You didn't see anybody else in the SUV.
No, I did not, sir.
You certainly didn't see a 6'1" man in the SUV in the passenger seat, correct?
Correct, sir.
In fact, you saw that the passenger seat was empty.
Correct.
So that's that spot in context, giving you a bigger segment here.
The woman in the passenger seat was staring straight ahead, correct?
Not in the passenger seat. She
I'm
was
sorry,
in the driver's seat.
thank you for catching that. The woman in the driver's seat was staring straight ahead.
That is correct, sir.
You didn't see her lips moving as if she were talking, correct?
I wasn't looking for that.
Did you ever see at that point
Let me stop
missing
there real
parts?
Okay, so where was John? If he had gone inside the house, then why was Karen still waiting out there? Was she waiting for him to come back out? And she never said that later in her statements to the police. If, or at least they haven't argued that. The Commonwealth hasn't argued that. We haven't heard that from Karen Reed's side. But is it the case that he out and was just about to head in? The taillights, though, and this was an important point that he could talk about, were red, meaning they were not yet broken. On the other hand, neither side says that they were broken by then. You can hear him say what he saw from the
Of its
taillights.
taillights?
No, sir, I wasn't observing the vehicle like that.
When the taillights were on, when the brakes were on, what color was the glow?
Red, sir.
Did you ever see a missing piece where it was white instead of red?
No, sir.
So I would say at this stage, I don't know how much the red taillight matters. Now, the implication the Commonwealth is making is it wasn't cracked yet. It wasn't like it had already been damaged. But nobody thinks that, I don't think, because certainly nobody is going to suggest, I mean, Karen Reed had just arrived. She just arrived with John O'Keefe, and there would be no possibility that the people in this truck behind her got there, they're parked right back there, and they miss a gigantic occasion where a man gets out, a woman backs into him, tosses him several feet through the air, and he ends up hurt. I mean, how did they miss that when it's directly in front of them? I don't think they could. I think the Commonwealth has to say that happened later, after the truck left. So there's no way the taillight's broken yet. And of course, Karen Reed's team says the taillight wasn't broken until the next morning when it was cracked, when she backed into John O'Keefe's car, pulling out of the driveway to go look for him since he hadn't shown up. So let's listen a little bit more of the cross-examination.
When you drove past the SUV, you saw a woman in the driver's seat?
Yes, that is correct.
You didn't see anybody else?
No.
Do you know if anybody else was in that SUV?
Could have been.
I'll allow it.
It could have been.
From when
Okay, so the Commonwealth is trying to improve what happened last time. Well, there could have been somebody there, which is a little more in line with what I heard him say
you were
last
driving by the SUV and you could see inside the driver's seat and saw the woman, could you see on the other side of the SUV if there was anybody standing on the other side of the SUV?
No, sir.
Was there anything obstructing your view as you drove by and saw the woman to prevent you from seeing on the other side of the SUV?
The woman and the vehicle itself.
So, but on cross-examination, Yannetti brought it straight back to Karen Reed's side. Here you go.
You just testified on cross-examination before Mr. Brennan stood up again that you saw that the passenger's seat was empty. Do you remember that?
Yes. I
All right.
said-
You're not changing that testimony?
No, I'm not changing that, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You had your
Patty
cell phone
said
with-
thank you twice. And clearly that was super strong for the defense, that he was very clear that John O'Keefe was not in the car right then. But it is sort of ambiguous because it isn't completely clear. Let me ask again, would y'all hit the like button? I would really appreciate that. That'll help the video get out to more people. They will realize we are live and hopefully join us. So also in that truck that night, Ryan's girlfriend of the time, and they made a big point, both of them, of saying, at the time, that was my then girlfriend. Yeah, I was dating him back then. So they are clearly not together now. But Ryan's girlfriend, Heather Maxon, was in the back seat. Ryan was in the front passenger seat. Their friend Ricky was driving. And so she also had testimony around this. And the defense, she said similar things. She saw Karen Reed and a man in the car turning right as the car turned in front of them. She says that the sister, Julie Nagel, came out to talk to her brother. They talked for a while, decided Julie was going to stay. Julie went back into the house and they were pulling away to leave. The car was still there. Now, the defense tried to suggest, well, maybe she was texting, maybe she had her phone, maybe she was kind of absorbed and missed some things, like, for example, John O'Keefe walking in the house.
You that night?
I did.
Can you testify with certainty that you were not checking your cell phone during that period of time?
Not with certainty, no.
You testified that you didn't see anybody get out of the SUV or approach the house, correct?
Correct.
You obviously don't know what did or didn't happen before you, Ricky, and Ryan arrived there, correct?
Correct.
While you were parked near the driveway, you weren't thinking that you had to watch the SUV every second in case you were later asked to describe what was going on with that vehicle, correct?
Correct.
So just like Ryan Nagel, she also saw a light turn on in the vehicle, in the car, as they were going past it. And she saw only a woman sitting in the car. So she also said that there was no one in the passenger seat. So the next witness was Sarah Levenson, a friend of Julie Nagel's. That's the sister who came out to talk to her brother and said she wanted to stay at the party. Now, Sarah also was over there with Julie to celebrate Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday. And the Commonwealth had her emphasize that there were no problems inside the house. No one was angry. No one was fighting. There was no tension inside. Everybody was just having a completely good time. And this witness is important because she, like Ryan Nagel and his girlfriend, she's not family. And so therefore, you're not tied in with the potential family group that Karen Reed says is trying to frame her. So she was partly corroboration to Julie's story that she went outside to talk to her brother, Ryan Nagel. And but she was also very important in talking about kind of the mood in the house. Here you go.
Night grew on. Was there any problems in the house?
No.
Any argument?
No.
Any fighting?
No.
Anything exciting or controversy in any way?
No.
Give it a second. 5 seconds.
Anything extraordinary or remarkable happen inside that house?
No.
After Julie went out and spoke to her brother and came back in the house, did anybody else come inside the house other than everybody who was already there celebrating Brian Jr.'s birthday?
No.
Did you ever see another?
So let's stop it there for a minute. So the witness said she left the house, she and Julie, at about 1:30 or 2. They left with Jennifer McCabe and her husband, Matt. She got home by 2, so she probably left a bit before too. And she didn't see, as they were leaving, anything by the flagpole. She didn't see a body lying there starting to be covered with snow. And so she didn't have anything that would fill in that gap about when exactly something happened to John O'Keefe. Now, the next witness, hugely important to the last trial and important to this trial as well, Katie Mclofflin, a firefighter paramedic. And she says that they sent her over to get some information about the victim for medical reasons. And so Karen Reed, she said, seemed to be kind of the most upset. So she figured she's the one who has the information. So she said she talked to Karen Reed in the presence of Jennifer McCabe and an officer. She says that Reed told her, I hit him 4 times. She says that what happened was Karen said, I hit him. And the witness, Katie Mclofflin, was kind of surprised. And Jennifer McCabe told her, you're hysterical. Stop saying that. And Karen Reed again said, I hit him. At that point, the officer took notice and said, what did you say? And for a 4th time, Karen Reed said, I hit him. The officer said, I need to call my officer over, my officer in charge over. And so the Commonwealth set this up by showing a scene that fit exactly what the witness was saying, where Karen Reed is in exactly this spot. The witness is right here. Jennifer McCabe is here. There's an officer right there. So there's no audio on it. We can't hear what was said, but they're trying to suggest that all of this indicates it must be truthful because of the way they're positioned. Now, the witness, Katie Mclofflin, if in case we just missed it, is in yellow and red, but I think you'll hear it.
Man or woman you didn't know come into that house?
No.
Is that you, ma'am, in the yellow?
Yes.
Okay, continue, please.
There we go. She's in, I think that's Carrie Roberts putting something in the trunk. But there's the yellow, and you can see the group over there talking. And this was important because of who was talking to whom and where they were positioned and so forth. But unfortunately, there is no audio. There's Karen Reed, and you can see Karen Reed and Jennifer McCabe.
Do you see yourself on that screen?
Yes.
What color jacket?
The red and yellow.
And who's to your left?
Miss Reed.
Across from you, with the blue or black jacket with the hood. Do you know who that is at this time?
Miss McCabe.
And you didn't know her at the time?
No.
Do you see the officer that's turned away from you?
Yes.
Do you know who he's speaking to?
No.
Do you know the exact moment that the defendant told you, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
I think it was just prior to that.
Okay, continue.
So you see them talking. And okay, the group kind of breaks up there.
Start, please.
Who's depicted in the first photograph?
Okay, let's go ahead and
myself.
stop there before we get to the next witness. So last time, there was a very brutal cross-examination by Alan Jackson, who represents Karen Reed, about how this witness actually had a long-standing relationship with Caitlin Albert and had minimized that to try to make herself look like she didn't really know the Alberts and was a neutral witness. So that was the cross-examination that was done last time. Well, this time, the Commonwealth brought out the relationship right away on direct, and frankly, the cross-examination was a lot less effective for this witness because of that fact, because it was brought out, and she went ahead and offered her explanation up front. So the judge did not allow her to be shown pictures of Caitlin Albert and of her at various locations where they had been together. And I think, although we didn't hear the ruling, my guess would be it's because she was admitting the relationship. So these weren't impeachment, because she admitted that she and Caitlin Albert knew each other from high school. They weren't friends. They just were friendly. They were sometimes in the same group of friends, but they weren't friends one-on-one with each other. That's what the witness had to say. But I will say this, she did do a little damage to herself, a little shot in the foot, because the judge is ruling these pictures don't come in, but she leafed through all of them so you could see how many there were. And there were a lot of them. She was looking through them and like, okay, well, that's pretty many, even though they didn't actually show them to the jury. Shiro Sheena is saying that is giving me credit for the fact that she's acing her law class, which, first of all, I take no credit for that, Shiro Sheena. Congratulations. That's awesome. But we are delighted to have you along with us. So I'm so glad you're here and glad you're, I don't know if you're in law school or taking a law class in undergrad, but either way, very cool. All right. So let's listen. Let's do a little more.
Do you see, does every one of those photographs include you?
Objection.
Does every one of those photographs include Caitlin
She's
Albert?
going to leaf through.
Objection.
Look at all these photos. And she's going to stack them.
Mclofflin, your relationship with Caitlin Albert goes back not just weeks or months or years, it goes back a decade or more. Matter of fact, more than a decade.
I grew up, we live in the same town, so we went through all the same school systems and everything.
May I approach?
Yes.
If I can have this, please. The reality is you did more with Caitlin Albert than simply go to the same school system, is that right?
Yes.
One of these photographs has you on vacation
Objection.
with Caitlin Albert drinking, correct?
Sustained.
You've been photographed with Miss Albert on many occasions at many celebrations with your girlfriends, correct?
Like a sidebar, please.
I'm going to allow that.
Is that right?
Been photographed on occasions with her.
On occasions, yes.
That wasn't my question, Your Honor.
Go ahead, ask
My
it.
question was, you've been photographed on many occasions and many celebrations with Caitlin Albert and your girlfriends, that group of girls that we just looked at.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, though, I think it was just less effective than it was last time because she'd already opened up about it. She'd already told about it. It was less of a gotcha, less of a you lied to the jury moment because of the fact that the jury already knew about it. So, okay, maybe it's a little more than they thought, but they already had the general gist of it. She had met Caitlin and they knew each other from high school. They weren't super close, but they were kind of in the periphery of the same friend group. And so I think it was less effective because of that. Now, one interesting thing is some cross-examination about the fact that the witness wrote down important details on her glove of all things, which would even be kind of hard to do. I guess maybe she had a Sharpie or something, but she wrote that down, but she did not write down the words, "I hit him," even though, of course, that is what her testimony is most focused on for purposes of this trial.
And you had a pen right in your right hand writing things, correct?
Yeah.
You never wrote that down, did you?
I wasn't going to write that statement down on the glove. I remembered that and I went back to the ambulance and told them.
You did memorialize that statement on any note that we have, correct?
No.
You didn't memorialize that statement on any glove that you were wearing, correct?
No.
Whatever you wrote down on that glove, where is that now?
Yeah, I don't have it, obviously.
I don't know how obvious it is. What'd you do with it?
You just scratch everything out and you throw out the glove.
Just threw it away. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that yes?
Yes.
So we don't know what was actually on or not on that glove, do we? And you're also aware that not a single police officer out at the scene wrote that down either.
Objection.
Sustained.
So she obviously, for her purpose, it wasn't critically important to maintain the exact thing she wrote it down on. For her purpose, she was collecting information about John O'Keefe, age, gender, whatever she needed in terms of medications he took or anything like that. She's jotting those things down. And it's not important to her to save this. It's not evidence. It's simply a way of remembering the information long enough to go back and get it entered into the medical information that they're going to show to the hospital and for future care for John O'Keefe. So that's her thinking about it. But from the legal standpoint, it's a missing piece of evidence. So also, it's very unusual. I just have never heard of anyone writing it down on their glove. I thought that was intriguing. Mari Brown is not buying any of this. She is saying she is concerned about the drinking and driving, which is exactly where the Commonwealth is going with the case as well. So that is, Mari, exactly where they're headed. Tanya has a super interesting question about why are more now believing the Commonwealth this trial. I want to save that, Tanya, for our questions at the end. That is a really good question. Let's hang on to that. All right. So let's now on redirect, which means there was first the Commonwealth and then there was cross-examination. And now here comes the Commonwealth again. She was saying, I don't deny knowing Caitlin Albert. I mean, but the way she had phrased it initially in the last trial, the way she had phrased it was, I went to school with someone named Caitlin Albert, as if, wow, what a coincidence. I happened to go to school with someone named that. And so it really opened the door for the defense to say, okay, look, it's a lot more than you just went to school with Caitlin Albert. You actually know her. You've been out of town with her. You've been to the beach with her. You have a friend group in common. So to say it like, oh yeah, why I knew someone with that name is disingenuous. Like there's no reason why that's fakey and false. You shouldn't be doing that. So here is what the Commonwealth response to that was.
You simply just say, somebody named Kate. I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert. You didn't leave it at that, did you?
No, I didn't.
Do you remember saying, I would say more acquaintances, not close friends?
Right.
Do you remember immediately saying after that, I would say we had mutual friends. We might see each other occasionally because of mutual friends, but we don't have a one-on-one friendship or hang out regularly?
Right.
Do you remember when you were asked?
So Jackson, that's the attorney for Karen Reed, tried to say that Kevin Albert had arranged to have this witness be interviewed. But she says she doesn't even know who Kevin Albert is. She knows who he is, but she didn't know at the time. And it was the Massachusetts State Police who called her up and asked her to interview. Now, the reason that matters, Kevin Albert is, of course, related to the Albert family. He was the reason that the Canton Police Department was disqualified from the case and ended up recusing themselves because one of their own was the brother of the guy who owned the house 34 Fairview where John O'Keefe was found outside. So they said, okay, yeah, we'll let the Massachusetts State Police handle this. So Alan Jackson had said, well, and this was fairly effective in the first trial, that Kevin Albert arranged her interview, but she says that's really not the case. It was the Massachusetts State Police.
Hearing, does the name Kevin Albert sound familiar? Do you remember what you told Attorney Jackson?
I told him no.
And then you would then ask, do you know Kevin Albert? Do you remember your response?
I said no.
And your testimony.
I think and you're going to see this next section. I think Jackson made a mistake, Karen Reed's attorney, by sort of doubling down on this and getting her to repeat her testimony, the testimony that helped the state the most. I don't know why he did that. I'm curious about this. But he says, and your testimony is?
You never heard my client say, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Correct? You never heard that.
I didn't hear those questions. No.
What you heard was, I hit him. Is that right?
I heard him. I hit him repeatedly.
So at this point, Alan Jackson really was trying to go back to the glory days of the first cross-examination, but it's just nowhere near as effective. And the Commonwealth and the witness are just better prepared for it this time around. And this goes to Tanya's question, I think.
You did ultimately start talking about your relationship in more detail with Caitlin Albert under my questioning, didn't you, after that first date? Is that right?
At the last
Yes.
one.
That's when I started showing you photographs, correct?
Objection.
Was that when you were seen showing photographs?
I don't know. I described it so many times. I don't remember.
But you knew I had information that I was going to ask you about.
Objection.
Sustained.
No.
Objection.
So she wasn't supposed to answer, but answered it anyway. that no, I didn't know that would be something you would ask me about. So Alan Jackson, the attorney for Karen Read, tries to get her to say anything related to Kevin Albert setting up the testimony, setting up the interview. And obviously what they would like to do is fold her into the group that would be setting Karen up. One of the most difficult things about the defense theory is how many people have to be involved in order for this conspiracy to work. It's not enough that it be just the homeowners. It has to be the homeowners and their relatives who were at the party and the friends who were at the party. And it has to be the paramedics who said that Karen Read said, I hit him. So they have to try to rope in a large group of people, Trooper Proctor, Brian Higgins, and it becomes more and more difficult for them.
With regard to Kevin Albert, did Trooper Proctor tell you during that interview that he had texted with with Officer Kevin Albert about setting up your interview? Did he tell you that?
I have no knowledge of that.
Did Trooper Proctor tell you that the reason we're here, the reason we set this up is because Kevin Albert texted me that he had already coordinated with you?
Never, no.
So the final witness of the day was Lieutenant Gallagher, who's actually the person who made that sort of dubious decision to use a leaf blower and plastic solo cups to collect and find evidence at the scene. He did not write any of that up in a report, but he said that's because he's the boss. So he doesn't write the report. Other people write the reports, and he just makes sure that other people actually write them when they're supposed to.
In this circumstance, you were the centerpiece of the recovery of evidence and the investigation as it was at that time in that limited context. You were the centerpiece of what was happening at the scene, correct?
And I made sure it was documented by Detective Sergeant Lang.
But you didn't find it important enough to write a report yourself.
I think that's poor misrepresentation. There's a person fighting for their life. It was very important.
So this particular witness, Gallagher, is a very tough witness to cross. He knows where the lawyer's heading. He's experienced. He has 30 years, I think he said, in the Canton police. So when Alan Jackson tried to pin him down on why he was the one telling the Massachusetts State Police where John O'Keefe's body was, when actually he hadn't even been there to see where the body was, he learned about it third hand. This is kind of the way the cross-examination went. And this is, I think, the second witness that went very much, went differently from last time. I feel like it was less effective and the witness was ready.
You were there to help provide information about, or at least you did provide information to them about where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found.
Oh, sure, yes.
Except you didn't see Mr. O'Keefe's body, did you?
No, I did not.
So that was a guess on your part.
It wasn't.
Information to them about where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found.
Oh, sure, yes.
Except you didn't see Mr. O'Keefe's body, did you?
No, I did not.
So that was a guess on your part.
It wasn't. It was what I was shown. It's the information I had.
Yeah, it was the information you were told by Sergeant Lang, correct?
Yes.
Who also didn't see John O'Keefe in place on the ground at 34 Fairview, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So his would be a guess also, correct?
Well, we're going backwards. So he was told by Sergeant Good and et cetera. So it was information passed along, which is what police officers do.
Right.
So he's ready with, this is how we do things. This is how we investigate. He was also ready with an explanation about why he used those red Solo cups instead of sending somebody back to the station, which was about a mile away, mile and a half away, to get some swabs that would then be in sterile containers and could be used to examine the blood stains that they found in the snow. So instead, he collected that snow in red Solo cups that he borrowed from another Canton officer who lived across the street from the Alberts.
If you're looking for DNA, you can use a bloody Kleenex, to your point.
It'd be kind of an emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. My point exactly.
But if you're a mile from the Canton PD,
Yeah,
you could have gone back and gotten a swab.
could have.
But you didn't.
Didn't want to because of the weather, because you just said because it's an emergency, and we thought it was an emergency there. I mean, the storm was coming down terribly.
You certainly could have gone back. If you wanted to, you could have dispatched one of your officers to go back and get swabs and properly collect the blood material. Right?
Sure. And I
He argued that he needed to stay at the scene. That was his responsibility. He couldn't just head off. But Alan Jackson had a pretty good question. Well, you have 4 people there. You've sent one to go get a leaf blower. Why don't you send one of the other ones to go get something else? And here's how that went.
I believed 15 minutes would have made a difference.
And what you did instead is, well, 15 minutes would have made a difference, but you asked Sergeant Good to drive to his house and get a leaf blower.
Yes.
You could have said, Officer Mulaney, get your butt over to Canton PD and pick up 10 swabs, correct?
He wouldn't have had access to the swabs.
Oh, so now one of your officers could have gotten swabs, even if the lieutenant, a ranking lieutenant, had dispatched him to go get a swab.
Because he doesn't have access to the BCI, the Office of BCI, where our stuff is kept.
Could you have made a phone call?
No, nobody there would have had access at that time. It was only Officer Dever on the desk.
So you're the only person that could have gotten those swabs?
Sergeant Lane could have gotten them as well.
So Sergeant Lane could have too?
Sure.
But you didn't say that?
No, definitely didn't.
So he then borrowed the red Solo cups from Canton police officer who lived right across the street that he's going to talk about.
I asked for plastic or glass containers. He had Solo cups, and I utilized them.
The same kind of Solo cups that we all see at backyard barbecues.
Yep, they hold liquid terrifically.
They're also not sealed, correct?
They are not.
They're also not used normally. I mean, they were here. They're not normally used for evidence collection, correct?
Oh, absolutely not.
When
So
Ricky
let me
pulled
go
up to
ahead and stop. So that's that will mark the end of our clips for tonight. And now I just want to talk a little bit about what we just saw and answer some questions. If you have a question, go ahead and put your question marks at the beginning, and that'll make it a little easier to spot in the chat. All right, so Mildred has an interesting point. It's strange no one asked these witnesses why they didn't ask what Karen hit John O'Keefe with. If she's running around saying, I hit him, what does she mean? And I don't know. I don't know if they, according to this witness, it wasn't really all that important to her. She's there collecting medical information. Although what you got hit with could be a pretty important thing. If you got hit with a bat versus hit with a car, that might make a difference in medical treatment. So, but you're absolutely right. It's really interesting that nobody asked that. Mr. Wu is, and we haven't even gotten, Mr. Wu has a good point. We haven't even gotten to the dog bite evidence yet. We haven't really gotten to that. We haven't seen the scratches on John O'Keefe's arm or bite, depending on what you believe. We don't have that really in evidence yet. So that's still to come. There's still medical evidence that will come in. And of course, a defense counter that they believe Chloe the dog was responsible for those marks on John O'Keefe's arm. And Mr. Wu is saying SUVs would not leave dog bites. Definitely true. Helen wants to know, why does the judge sustain the defense questions? It's for a variety of reasons. So what happens is the judge waits for an objection. If the Commonwealth objects, then the judge rules. Sustained means I agree with that objection, and I'm not going to let you answer that question. Now, obviously reverse that if the Commonwealth is asking questions and the defense objects. But so the reasons really vary a lot. There was one witness, one question asked of Katie Mclofflin about what did some of these officers say to you when they called? And that would be hearsay. So for her to say what somebody else said would be hearsay. It might fall into an exception, but apparently the judge didn't believe that and ruled against that particular question. So those would be some of the reasons, or a reason why you might find that they wouldn't be allowed. Let's see. And let's go back to Tanya's question. And I think I should put that to y'all. Why do you believe that more people are believing the Commonwealth this trial? And first of all, you may not even agree that that's true. I do agree with Tanya. I think that that's happening. And I have some ideas, but why don't y'all put some in the chat first and let me see what you think, and then I'll give you some thoughts on that while I'm answering some questions. Okay, let's see. What was John O'Keefe's blood alcohol level? I don't think we know that, NHL Pins 58. I don't believe we have that access to that information. Robert Hall, do you think about the way Brennan is introducing Karen Read? What do I think about the way Brennan is introducing Karen Read evidence via video clips? I think it's incredibly effective, really, really effective. I think the fact that it breaks up the flow, that he's doing it so that it reinforces weaknesses after a witness is given some really tough cross-examination, I think it's been incredibly effective. I don't know how many more he has. I don't know if he's run through his entire arsenal or if there are more to come, but I think they've been really strong. I think he'll show pretty much all of them in closing. It'll be fast. And it shows what a risk it is to talk to the media. And the risk in talking to the media is, I think, greater than ever because of the way it gets multiplied out through social media and through all of the different outlets covering a trial this big. On the other hand, and I've said it before, I do feel like Karen Read needed to get her story of corruption inside the police department. She needed to get that out in order to have public support, which she has had, and which I think does help her in the case. So it's sort of a mixed bag right there. What did the autopsy say he died of? We don't have that in evidence yet. If I can remember from the last time, I believe it was a combination of two things. And one was, what was it? It was hypothermia and I think blow to the head. I don't really recall exactly, like blunt force trauma, maybe. I don't know. We'll be getting to that soon, but I don't remember exactly what it was from the first trial. We will find that out super soon. JD, since Karen likes to do interviews and talk to the press, do you think she'll testify? No, I do not. Entirely different matter because of the cross-examination. Although the fact that clips have already been used does make it maybe a little less risky for her, but still think of the cross. Let's say she gets up there and says, you know, I had nothing to drink, because she says when she got to the waterfall bar, she had nothing to drink. And then they play, you know, various clips that maybe don't directly contradict it, but they might be able to come up with some really good cross as she tries to testify. So I think it would be tough. Maria Z, I think it's weird that no one suggests that these scratches could be a wild animal that happened to be digging the ground like a raccoon, etc. And I think I mean, it doesn't have to be Chloe the dog. Maria Z has a point. It could be another animal. Maybe because it was so cold, they thought there wouldn't be a lot of animals out. Baby Renee, so if John entered the Albert house where he was beaten, tossed outside on their own lawn, was he still sipping his cocktail? Well, there's an excellent point. Baby Renee, such a good point. That's a really good point, because he was found with the glass partly broken. And so maybe he was real tight clutch on that glass, maybe. That's a good argument. That's a really good argument. Okay, Ruth, isn't the judge supposed to say just answer yes or no? You know, it depends on the question. That is something that commonly people will ask the judge, you know, can I get an instruction to the witness to just say yes or no? A lot of judges hate doing that. They really want the witness to be able to explain. So some judges are just plain reluctant to do that, in my experience. And so she's obviously not doing too much of that. Occasionally she'll tell the witness, answer yes or no, and then you can explain when, you know, Mr. Jackson gets up, or whatever the opposite attorney would be. All right. I'm looking for some of your comments were, and then I'll give you some of my thoughts on why I think things might be a little different this time around from the first trial. All right. All right. Let's see. Who else do I have? I think I've answered most of the questions. So let me talk a little bit about Tanya's question. Why would it be a little different this time? I think the trial will have a different flavor. I mean, I said from the beginning, any time that you have a second trial, it's going to be different. I remember trying a case for the second time, and the attorney, I was pretty young at the time. And the attorney I worked for saying, I was like, well, we're all ready, which was crazy because in fact, you end up getting completely ready again. Absolutely nothing you did the first time. I don't know why, but it's like starting all over again. But I remember he said, and this was very wise, he said, you cannot try the same case again. You can't do it in practical terms, and you shouldn't do it either because you will end up losing if you just go in and try the same case again. We have to be creative. We have to look for what's the new case we're going to try. And so that's just a fact. Anytime you have a second trial, it's different. And I think that we have this time a much more prepared Commonwealth, and they're making arguments and they're presenting witnesses in a way. Last time, the cross-examination from the outset just steamrolled over the Commonwealth, and it's not as strong this time. It's not that these aren't fantastic lawyers, because they are, but they brought their A game last time, and so they used their very best points last time. Now they are trying to come up with new points, but remember this. That's what's true right now. The Commonwealth is putting on a stronger case, but so will Karen Reed. Karen Reed will put on a stronger case too. Her case is not the same. So we're going to see just the entire trial be different. We're going to watch that unfold. All right. So yeah, I need question marks at the beginning. So I've got a shot of finding them in here with a lot of comments. So no one would be, it's dark, early AM, a tree and an SUV there. No one would be looking for a body. Unreasonable? Well, no, I think that's true. I think that no one would be looking for a body. Nobody's going to be expecting that. I think the argument that the defense is trying to make is there was enough light from inside the house that you could see this area. Today we had a question suggesting, well, maybe not by the flagpole. Maybe it was pretty dark over in that area, but that there would be enough light and that people would notice. If there was a body lying there, people would have noticed, and nobody did. So when did the body get there? Now we'll hear on the defense side from the snowplow driver who's going to say he went by much later than this and there was no body there. So we will find that out that in the defense part of the case. Did they find DNA on Karen's car? They did. They did find DNA. We haven't had that evidence in this trial yet, but we do know that they found some DNA on the car, specifically a hair, I believe, on the car, and maybe some on the taillight pieces as well, but not all of them, which will be a huge point that the defense will make. David King is speculating that maybe Higgins was enraged and punched John, who hit his head. That's, I think, a theory that the defense believes could be real. Marissa Monroe, do you think John O'Keefe was only in the garage or basement and all the party guests didn't see him? I don't see how that could be. We had a question today about the fact that you could not enter this one area from the garage. So the door led straight into the living room. So he could have come in that door, although it'd be a little odd. He'd be passing the main door and going to the next door, which was not quite as prominent on the front of the house. But he could have gone into that living room, but I don't think it would have been the garage. That would have, I gathered that door went into the house, not into the garage. So, but there may be one to the garage too, although why he would go in there, I don't know. That would be kind of odd. Uriah asking me, do you think a retrial always benefits the prosecution? I don't think it always does, but I think it usually does, because the defense, well, it does alert everybody knows what the other side's arguments are going to be. So whichever side just brought everything last time is going to do better than the one that was maybe less prepared. So I think it's going to fall more along those lines. All right. See, we have a team Commonwealth in there. We've got people on both sides of this, and I'm glad to have all of you here. I think this is a really important case for having discussions around some of the most important issues that we see in true crime. We've got issues of corruption of the police, potentially. We've got issues related to the freedom and to the rights of the defendant. But we also have issues related to how the witnesses are questioned and to memory issues of witnesses. I mean, it's got all kinds of things. We've got a defendant who talked to the media and the fallout of that, both positive and negative. Super important case, I think, for all of those reasons. Do you find Alan's cross style a little too aggressive, Juju asked? Like the gotcha moments aren't as impactful, and how does that affect Karen's image? So I think that it is harder because he's already done this cross once and the witnesses are prepared and they're bringing out the really tough stuff on direct examination. So the big surprise where he slams it home like, and here's another thing that you hid from the jury, it's just muted. It's not the same as it was last time. So I think it definitely hurts the case, but we're going to see some of that happen in Karen Reed's case too. We're going to see times when some of the Commonwealth's cross is just going to fall flat, and the case for Karen Reed has gotten stronger. So we all have to wait around for that. We won't know that until we kind of watch it. The Charlotte Show asked me, did the medical examiner say anything about the cuts on his arm in the last trial? I'm trying to remember what the medical examiner said about the cuts. I don't believe, definitely I remember she said they were there. It wasn't like she denied that they were there, but I don't recall her definitively saying what exactly the cause was. So I can't really answer that. Summer Wind, was the glass from inside the house belonging to the homeowner? Weird, all that activity on their front lawn and they didn't come outside. So the glass, I think, belonged to the Waterfall Bar, or was the same kind. I remember they talked about that in the last trial. As far as the homeowners not coming out, that is strange. Although the Commonwealth has made a point and did today that nobody came out. Nobody came out from any of those various houses around there. So I personally looked up, what is the sound of a nor'easter? And it's really pretty loud. So I'm guessing maybe all that wind and the blowing of the snow and everything, that maybe that covered up some of the sound, but there wasn't, apparently it wasn't enough to attract the attention of any of the people in the nearby houses, which is very, very odd and surprising. It just seems like that would be a natural thing to come out. All right. Well, let's do a little talk about kind of what's coming up in the schedule. Thursday, dang it, I wasn't going to do this. Okay, Thursday is the anniversary of my husband's death. So I will be going dark, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to watch the trial. I'm not going to answer email or anything like that. We're going to have a very happy, hopefully I'll be happy, celebration of his life. And we're having friends over, and I think it'll be really fun. And it'll be nice to see everybody, because this is so much harder than I thought. I don't know why I thought this, but I honestly thought, oh, at a year, you're just like over it. Everybody knows that. And for a year, things will be tough. But at a year, everything is fine. And I don't know, but it doesn't feel like that to me at all. For those of you who have been through this, maybe you can reach out to me and let me know why I feel this way. But anyway, so Thursday, I won't be doing a live stream. Friday, I'll do our regularly scheduled live stream. I'll also go Tuesday and Wednesday, but not on Thursday. And then following Friday, I'm going to be, I will be gone for about a week and a half from the show. So I'll be back in a week and a half, and I'll be off for about a week and a half. So one of the things I've been trying to do is figure out, how can I keep everybody updated and so forth on the trial. If you have any ideas, let me know. And I would be interested to hear your thoughts. So you can write me. You can get my email. The mods, bless them, Marlon and Mama Pinks, will put that contact information in the chat, or you can always find it on my YouTube page when you go to the About section. So I look forward to hearing from y'all. And don't forget, the members only will be Wednesday night after our regularly scheduled live stream. And I will see you all then. And tomorrow night at 7.